To the Karen Read murder trial, the jury is set to begin its fourth day of deliberations this morning. Jurors asked the judge several questions on Tuesday, which could signal which way they might be leaning. Dan Emers is going to address that after this from Chief National Correspondent Matt Gutman. Good morning, Matt.
Hey, good morning, George. And you can see the Karen Read reporters behind me wearing their pink outside the courthouse today. And there is a real sense out here today that the jury is getting close to some sort of decision. But one of the questions they asked yesterday indicates that they may not be convinced by the prosecution's case. This morning, hundreds of Karen Read supporters thronging that Massachusetts courthouse, anxious for a verdict.
Karen, what about from you? Any reaction to what's happened today?
In the afternoon, the jury signaling to Judge Beverly Cannoni that they were confused about the jury form.
If we find not guilty on 2 charges but can't agree on 1 charge, is it a hung jury on all 3 charges or just 1 charge? To me, it's a theoretical question, and we don't answer theoretical questions.
Karen Read's defense pleading for the judge to simplify the form.
Because if that question remains in their minds, we're going to end up in the exact same position that we were in last year.
That jury almost exactly a year ago was hopelessly deadlocked. Eventually, a mistrial was declared.
This is what it looks like when you bring false charges against an innocent person.
This time around, the judge not budging.
This is not a question I can answer.
Ronald DeStanislaw was a member of that jury during Read's first trial and says he's watching history repeat itself.
I honestly think it's going to be the same exact outcome. That on 2 charges, it's going to be not guilty, and on 1 charge, it's going to be essentially a mistrial.
He told me back in April that the jury he was on was also uncertain about the jury instructions. What was the understanding in the jury room about having to be unanimous?
Our understanding as a group was it has to be unanimous on all 3 counts.
Read, who claims she's innocent and never hit O'Keefe with her car, is facing 3 charges. Second-degree murder for the death of her Boston police officer boyfriend, John O'Keefe, manslaughter while operating a motor vehicle under the influence, and leaving the scene of a fatal collision. The manslaughter charge carries a series of lesser offenses, including OUI, similar to driving while intoxicated. Now you can hear those free Karen Read chants behind me. And remember, this trial started back on April 1st, and both the prosecution and the defense have urged the jury to follow the data, but they have wildly different interpretations of the data. The defense says that John O'Keefe was attacked by fellow cops, and then there was a conspiracy to cover up his death. The prosecution says Karen Read hit him with her car. It's simple, but for jurors with over 200 pieces of evidence to pour over, it's anything but, guys.
Okay, Matt, thanks very much. Let's bring in our chief legal analyst, Dan Emers. What do those questions tell you?
It tells me this is pretty good news for the defense so far, meaning if you believe that these jurors are saying not guilty on the 2 most significant charges and they're potentially hung on one of the lesser ones, we don't know this, but that's what it looks like, that would be good news for Karen Read. And we'll have to see. It was very interesting to hear how the judge dealt with this as well.
And did the judge provide enough clarification when it comes to that question about a hung jury?
You know, it was kind of a close call, right? Because what the judge could have said is, as a legal matter, if you find her not guilty on the first 2, those cases go away. And then, yes, there could be a 3rd charge. What the judge is trying to do is get them to reach verdicts on all of it. So the judge doesn't want to give them an out, right? To say, in effect, no, this won't be a hung jury on the whole. You'll have resolved 2 of the charges. The judge basically wants to send them back, leave them enough uncertainty to basically say, try to reach a verdict on all 3 of these counts.
You know, after the last hung jury, this is the retrial for that. Do you think if they don't, do you think they can do another trial again if there's another hung jury on the final trial?
Yeah, so if it ends up being not guilty on the most significant charges and there's a hung jury on one of the lesser, I don't expect that they're going to retry, which would mean it's a win for Karen Read. If there is a hung jury on a more significant charge, it's a closer question. But I think in the end, are they really going to try this a 3rd time if they have problems here? I don't think so, particularly if it's one of the lesser charges. I think this case is going to be over.
All right. Thank you, Dan. Appreciate your insight, as always.